Hey, so in this video, I want to be walking you through how I like to go optimize LinkedIn profiles for lead generation. I want to show you my sort of approach, my thought process, so you can sort of walk through this and you can optimize your profile or refine it based on my sort of current approach. So, firstly, what I want to just give you context on is when I am looking to optimize my profile, I'm looking for less is more. I'm looking for clarity. If I can say it in less words and get it across the same or less just in general, that is fine. So let's go through it first. So first thing, profile picture, nothing crazy, just a headshot. Make sure it's clear. I usually like to have this either somewhat complement or look similar to my banner, just because it looks a bit cleaner. What I've done with my headshot here is I've also edited it slightly in Canva, so you can see that there's like a little shadow in the back. I've only done that just because the background is white, and so it just looks a bit clearer. But other than that, the headshot's nothing crazy, but just make sure you've got one, and preferably if it can complement or look like the banner, that's great. Then the banner itself. Now, what you'll notice here is, there's nothing sort of crazy here. It's pretty to the point. So what I have is I've got almost a sort of a more bigger and bolder sort of line, which is short, that basically tries to really just show the core results that I help my clients get. Right. So in this case, more clients, hands free, zero risk. Right. It's very to the point and it's trying to highlight the sort of result and the benefit that my idle clients are going to be getting. And what I do have as a subtext in this case is my guarantee, which I currently have at the moment as recording this video. But a lot of the time for clients, I tend to have this subtext be something that is like in support or perhaps slightly explaining from that sort of big line, sort of in the middle. And like I said before, right, the reason I've done this is just simply because I want to just try and clarify, the sort of main benefit and results that I get from my clients and, just the extra details. I'm not a graphic designer. I'm not someone that is incredible at profiles. And obviously, you can see that. But my focus is just primarily on trying to really display that core benefit. So that's pretty much the profile. And I basically put that together in Canva. Doesn't take crazy amount of time, but you just want to think of the core benefits and results that your offer has and that your ideal client would benefit from. That's really the main thing. The next thing is then the headline. Now, the headline is super important, and I want to just make it very clear that most founders that I sort of come across overdo it. They overdo it. They try and cram their headline with as much stuff as possible in terms of titles, in terms of achievements, personal things. Like you don't need it, right? You don't need to list out all your services or whatever. You don't need to do that. All I like to do with the headline is really focus on sharing who I help, what I do, and how I do it. That's pretty much it, right? So in this case, it's I help founders sign clients through done for you LinkedIn client acquisition. Right, that's pretty much the main thing. Obviously, here I've got pay only for results. That's just a little extra thing at the end. But primarily speaking, that is all I'm looking at, right? That's all I'm trying to communicate. Because why this matters so much is this headline is the sort of stuff that's going to be shown when you view someone's profile, when you send a connection request and they're trying to see if like if they should even accept that, right? So it's actually much more important than people realize. And so when you jam a load of just nonsense at the beginning of that headline, it just communicates the whole like complete wrong things. And for reference, this headline is the sort of stuff that is appearing, for example, at the top of LinkedIn posts and perhaps at the comments if you sort of do any. I don't particularly do any comments, but it appears like even at the top of your content as well. So you do want to make sure that that can at least start to sort of show exactly sort of who you help, what you do, and how you do it. And for example, if you want to do this for yourself, literally the format I use is I help ideal client with problem through solution or through offer, right? Nothing crazy. And a lot of the time, people want to try and get clever in terms of messaging and have like their own catchphrase or their own sort of thing. I would avoid that with the headline, just focus on clarity because you'd be surprised at the amount of people that came to me asking what I actually did or they just didn't understand who I helped, or just the offer. And there's always going to be something that perhaps they want a bit more clarity on, which is the whole idea of them, hopping on a sales call with you so they can figure that out. But what they need to know is if you can help them, if you can help the problem that they currently have, and a general idea of how you do it. That's what matters. Then from there, you then have the link in bio. Right now, what you'll notice is at the moment, I have two links in bio. I have my visit my website and I've got lead gen links. Now, the main one I really want to cover is the visit my website. Now, this is effectively what is most important. It's the custom button. You can only have it if you have LinkedIn Premium. Now, there's things like visit my website or book an appointment. Those are the two which I usually recommend. The reason why these are quite important is because you'll notice as I scroll down, the actual visit my website button sort of pops up. And so it's a lot easier for idle clients that are viewing your profile to go and click that. What's also important, and as you can see on my sort of post, is the button is there also. So if someone views my post, they want to sort of learn more, or perhaps they're a bit curious, they can access, or in this case, visit my website straight from that post. So it just makes things easier for people to access. I have a lead gen links there. That's just a few links to my sort of YouTube and such. Honestly speaking, I probably don't even really need this there. I just have it there because it doesn't really get in the way so much. But that's pretty much what I'm looking to do. In your case, I would very much recommend, either giving them either a link to your website or, to book it on your calendar or such. Obviously, make sure if they're going to book in your calendar that you've got filters on there so that you're able to quickly check if the person that you're getting onto the call is somewhat qualified, but that's pretty much that. Then you have the about section. Now, the about section I try and look at as somewhat of an elevator pitch, right? I'm not trying to, give them my life story. I'm just trying to sort of get to the point on the most important parts. So obviously I started off just basically saying what I do. I talk a bit more about how it works, right? And I try and keep this as compact and to the point as possible. I also try and show or at least share some real results that perhaps I've gotten for myself or my clients. And then just sort of like, obviously, in this case, I sort of include my guarantee just because that's something at the moment for me I'm sort of currently using. And then I give a call to action, which in this case is to click my visit my website button to learn more, which obviously, if they are reading it at this point, they can just click the button right here. So it's a lot easier. And generally speaking, with this, sometimes the about section, I might sort of include things such as, problems you might be facing or problems you might be sort of coming across. And I might even sort of almost position it as, hey, you might be seeing these problems. Here's, what life could be like if you got them solved. Here's how we work. Here's the results, right? So you can play around with it, but that's generally the idea I take with it. Services section, I quite like to have the services section, and a lot of the founders I speak to don't actually have this in. This can somewhat help with sort of SEO, or at least people are searching for certain services or individuals. It can make you more likely to pop up. For this, I literally just condense my about section and put this in here as well. So that's pretty much simple. The only other main thing that I want to cover here is your featured section. Now, the featured section in my eyes is primarily speaking for putting social proof in there, right? Social proof being testimonial, video testimonials, screenshots, case studies, you name it. That's primarily what I believe it to be. So, for example, for me, right, I've got video testimonials, I got screenshots of me sort of booking sales calls for myself. And effectively, what I've got is like as I start to update this over time, I just have this catalog of social proof, which effectively people can sort of look at, scroll through, and it's all there. Right. And obviously in this case, right, the very first thing I've got there is just a link to one of my YouTube videos. That's just something I put in there. But primarily speaking, it is just social proof. And the reason why this matters so much is when you get in front of someone that isn't familiar with you, with what you do, with the value you have, you need to put that up front so they can understand that. Right. And so in this case, by putting this up front, putting this results up front doesn't have to be anything crazy, but put something up front, right? And in this case, what I do is I create a post and I attach a image, screenshot, video, whatever it might be, that effectively supports the post. And with the post, I try and talk more about, what it, the result that I got, or the result I helped the client get, and then I talk more about how I did it. Because what it means is that when I then feature this in the feature section, when idle clients or people that are curious read it, they can get more of an understanding of what it is that I do, and they can see the visual proof. So that's really, really key. Like I said before, as you just start updating it, which you might add a post like that to it once every week or two, you're going to create this catalog or social proof, which is just going to give you more credibility as well. And that's pretty much it, right? I mean, obviously, you've got the experience section, which you sort of know what to do with that. Just add your sort of such. You can add skills. Skills aren't crazily important. Honestly, I wouldn't really say they're that important at all. And then, obviously, if you can get recommendations and such, I've got about 10 at the moment, then that's obviously sort of quite useful in terms of social proof as well. But honestly speaking, I think what matters the most is the features, the services, the about, and then obviously the headline, the link in bio and the banner. Overall, this is pretty much the stuff that I look to cover and my thought process when I'm optimizing sort of the profile. But the only thing I really want you to take away from this is when you're thinking about optimizing your profile, how you can say the same thing in less words or with less stuff. Like, for example, I've seen banners where people cram everything in and it just takes away from the main thing that's there, which is why my banner is pretty plain, just because it keeps the focus on the right thing. And this can go for your headline, for your about, for just about anything. So if that's the only thing you take away, that's really, really key. But hopefully you found this walkthrough pretty useful. And if you're interested or curious to learn more about how I could help you with LinkedIn, then you can see my website and learn more. Cheers.